I'm going to break down the 43 most effective productivity apps on the iPad Pro that I use every single day. My name's Aman. I'm a university student studying computer science and economics, and I'm going to group these apps into 4 different categories: note-taking and creativity, reading and learning, my toolkit, and miscellaneous. Every single app with a timestamp is listed in the description down below, so feel free to jump around. With that, let's get to it. Starting off with the note-taking and creation category, here are 12 apps I use to either write notes or create some sort of content. First off, Drafts. Drafts is the note-taking app, and it's my app of choice for any quick capture. Basically, anytime I have a thought, idea, or remember to do something, I will immediately open up Drafts like this and write it down. Notice how it opens up to a fresh draft immediately. It's really fast and minimalistic, and it works perfectly for noting down ideas quickly. I'd say the Drafts quick capture habit is one of those things that has changed my life by a significant margin, just because I don't really forget to do anything or lose any sort of ideas or thoughts at all anymore. I also use Drafts to take notes on any podcasts or audiobooks when I'm on the go, because I don't really have my MacBook there or a desktop setup for note-taking. I made a video about Drafts and quick captures, so you can watch that if you're interested in learning more. My next app is Ulysses. Now, Ulysses is hands down the best writing experience in any app. I use Ulysses to write out any article or newsletter, and it's pretty great for that stuff. As you can see right now, I'm in the Ulysses app in one of my sections, which I've titled Articles, just because I write all of my articles here. Ulysses is great because it has markdown capability, so if I create a new note and I want to title it something, all I have to do to access a heading is to type a number sign, and that's like a heading 1 if you know HTML. It has a ton of cool formatting and markdown features that I use all the time, and you can check out my in-depth review of Ulysses if you're interested. Now we get to Bear. So I don't really use Bear that much anymore, just because a lot of the other apps on this list cover most of its features. Pretty much the only time I use it is when I don't have internet, so when I'm in a car or in a plane and I want to take notes over something. Notion. So Notion is by far the best app I use. If I could only choose one app, I would probably pick Notion, just because it can do so many different things. I use Notion for almost everything. That's videos, articles, my classes, pretty much all of that stuff is in Notion. For example, this is the academia page that I use for all of my classes. For every class, I have a table which contains all of the chapters for the whole semester, and this table also tells me when I last reviewed it and the date I learned it for the first time and finished learning it. If I open one of these, you can see how for every chapter I will write questions for myself, and Notion makes this really easy with the toggle feature. The toggle feature allows you to hide content behind a toggle. So if we open this, notice how I have an answer to the question, which is, what is a good resource to look up CSS style information? Another thing Notion can do is actually write code, which makes it really good for computer science majors. If I open this toggle right here, notice how there's JavaScript right here, which is the answer to the question. And it's really great because you can change the language like this, and it will actually alter the syntax highlighting based on the language you pick. So Notion is excellent for staying really organized for computer science classes. If I were to recommend one app from this video that every student should download right now, it would be Notion. Next up is Roam Research. Now this one is another great note-taking app. Roam is excellent for ideas or thoughts. For example, I take all of my book notes, article notes, and podcast notes in Roam. Let me show you how I take book notes in this app. These are my notes on Anti-Fragile by Nassim Taleb. The way I take notes on these books is I will go section by section, chapter by chapter as I'm reading, and take the key points and summarize them in my own words. So for example, if we go to the introductory section and then this chapter called What Kills Me Makes Others Stronger, there are bullet points where I'm taking the key insights and rephrasing them in my own words and creating literature notes in Roam. Taking notes in Roam has been really helpful, just because if I don't take notes over what I read, I end up forgetting it within a few months. It's also great for repurposing content. So let's say I go back and make a video on Anti-Fragile. I will probably go through my notes and summarize them into a video on it. Roam is special because it has this thing called biconditional linking. So for example, if I go to an empty section of Anti-Fragile, let's just go down here, and I create a new page from here, or mention another page, let's make a page called test page. Looks like I already did that. And if we go in there and you go down, notice how there's a linked reference to the book Anti-Fragile. If we go to the graph overview like this, it will show you all the biconditional links I've made from individual pages to each other. This makes idea generation and writing a lot easier because a ton of pages reference each other, which makes kind of a personal wiki. These ideas build up in Roam and are later on forwarded to Notion, where they're turned into articles or videos. Roam is really great for anyone who creates content, like writing articles or making videos. My next app is is Readwise, which is another one of my favorite apps. What Readwise does is it takes all the content I consume in other places and brings them to one area. So for example, if I highlight something in Kindle or Instapaper, I'll talk about those both later on, Readwise will take those highlights and put them in Notion and Roam. If we open Notion and go to the Readwise page, you can see how all of these are books that Readwise has taken highlights from and put them in this Notion database. Let's go to 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson, and here I can see all of the highlights from that book. It also does this for Twitter threads, articles, and podcasts. So right here, we're in the tweets database, and Readwise has taken all of the Twitter threads that I forwarded to it and put them in my Notion so I can look at them later on. Readwise is incredible because it saves me hours of time by bringing everything into one place. Next up, Notability. Notability is my app of choice for any handwriting I do on the iPad. In my opinion, it's the best app for that. I'm a CS major, so most of my notes are typed, but any handwriting I do for computer science or math classes, I will do that all in Notability. Notability is excellent for math classes because I can import PDFs of the problems and solve them on my iPad. It's really hard to type up math solutions, so with my iPad pencil, I can just handwrite them. Drop a comment down below if you want to see my Notability workflow for all my math and CS classes. ProCreate is my app of choice for all the artistic stuff I do on my iPad, which is not a lot because I'm terrible at drawing. But my main use case for ProCreate nowadays is making all of my YouTube thumbnails or any diagrams I put in my articles. You can draw with different brushes, use a ton of colors, and it's kind of a shame that I don't know how to use it very well. Lightroom is the app I use for any photo editing. I think most of you guys know what that is. I just put thumbnails, Instagram posts, and other pictures in there and then edit them. Day One is the app I use for any journaling. If I don't want to write something in Notion or Roam because those aren't very private or secure, I will put it in Day One. It's really good for any personal thoughts or journaling. Text editor is pretty self-explanatory. This lets me edit any .txt files I have in my iCloud drive. It actually syncs to my MacBook, which lets me edit the same files on my desktop and my iPad, which is really useful. Go Record is a simple creation app. It's the app I'm using right now to screen record on my iPad. The benefit of Go Record is that it also includes the audio, so it's really easy to sync up and post. Now onto the reading or learning category. These are 14 apps I use to either read or learn something new. Starting off with Feedly, this is the first app in my article reading workflow. First, I use Feedly as my RSS feed reader of choice. As you can see over here, I have a ton of different blogs I follow, and anytime any of them posts a new article, Feedly will take that, capture it, and put it in my feed. Then I use this app called Reader, which takes those articles from Feedly and reformats them and puts them in a really nice readable format. The benefit of Reader is that it's really fast to scroll through and look at any new articles that are posted here. I can read any of these articles in here if I want to. They're very clean and are in chronological order, but I usually forward them on to Instapaper, which is the third and final app in my article reading workflow. Anytime I see an interesting article in Reader, I will forward it to Instapaper like this. What I can do is I can click on this article, go to the share button down here, click that, forward it to Instapaper, and it automatically saves in Instapaper. I use Instapaper because it's really good for reading and it syncs up with Readwise. So if I highlight something in here like this, that highlight will sync to my Notion courtesy of Readwise. I also use Instapaper because it keeps up a queue and the reading experience is really good. Okay, moving on. Next up is The Economist. The Economist is where I get my news if I want to read any news. I don't really use it that much, but I do check it occasionally. Adobe Acrobat is my PDF app of choice. I just have the free version and it's worked well for me to read any PDFs over the years. Next up is Skillshare. So Skillshare is the best place to learn any new skill online. I used it to learn how to video edit for the first time, and right now I'm watching a bunch of digital photography courses because I want to actually learn how to use the camera properly. Skillshare has been so valuable because anytime I want to learn anything, I just look for it on Skillshare, and someone has put the time and effort in to create a detailed and well-filmed class that I can watch from start to finish. I actually have my own computer science class on Skillshare. You can hit the link in the description if you want to watch it for free. Next up is CuriosityStream. CuriosityStream is kind of like Netflix for documentaries. Whenever I'm doing any sort of menial task or grunt work, I will put on CuriosityStream on my iPad and watch it while I'm working. Nebula is another educational streaming service. It's for educational YouTubers who want to put up extra content that's not subject to the YouTube algorithm or advertising. It also has a ton of ad-free podcasts from some of my favorite people like Thomas Frank and Ali Abdaal. Audible. Now, Audible is one of the most valuable apps in this video. know. It allows me to consume content and be productive while I'm not doing anything anyway. I really like listening to nonfiction books or fantasy audiobooks while I'm at the gym or cleaning the apartment. Right now, I'm listening to Promise of Blood by Brian McClellan, which is a fantasy audiobook. Outlook is my email app of choice. It's a generic email app. I didn't really put too much time or effort into picking it. Kindle is great. It's how I read all of my books. I like to have Kindle open on one side and Roam Research open on the other like this. This is really good for taking notes on books when I don't want to be at my computer. Medium is a place where anyone can post articles, and the Medium algorithm will show you an article that it thinks you'll enjoy based on what you've already read. It's kind of like YouTube for articles. Anki is my flashcard app of choice. I made a video comparing it to Quizlet. You can watch that after this if you're interested. In short, I prefer Anki to Quizlet because 1, it incorporates a lot of spaced repetition, and 2, it's a lot more customizable. Quizlet is another flashcard app. It's not as good as Anki, but I have it because I have a few older flashcard sets on it. We've now arrived at my toolkit. All the apps in this category serve a very specific purpose. I see them more as productivity tools rather than creation or consumption apps. We start off with Fantastical, which is my calendar app of choice. Using a calendar regularly is one of the few things that has tangibly changed my life. That and using a to-do list. Anytime I hear of, remember, or decide to commit to something at a certain time, I will immediately put it in my calendar. Fantastical makes this really easy because it has great natural language processing. For example, if I have an appointment on the 28th, all I have to do is type appointment on January 28th at noon. Then I can click add. And if we go to January 28th, that appointment is there at noon. Fantastical automatically fills in the respective fields, which makes it just take a few seconds to add an event to the calendar. After doing this for the last few months, I can confidently say that I haven't forgotten to attend a specific event at all during that time. Even if you don't use Fantastical, you should really get into the habit of using some sort of calendar, just because it will make you much more efficient, reliable, and productive. Things is my app of choice for my to-do list, and using a to-do list is one of those things that has measurably changed my life, but not in the way that most people use one. Every day, I do outline exactly what I want to get done during the day, but the benefit of to-do lists are that anytime you remember to do any sort of task, I immediately throw it in things. Because of this, I almost never forget to do any task. For example, if I remember that I have to clean the bathroom, all I have to do is type clean the bathroom. Then I can schedule that to any time. Let's say I want to do it next week on Wednesday, just click that and it automatically goes to my to-do list on Wednesday. That way, when it gets to Wednesday, I can check my to-do list and see that cleaning the bathroom is scheduled for that day. Also, Things is probably the most well-designed and optimized iPad app I've ever used. Google Maps, classic Maps app, you already know what that is. Dark Sky is my favorite weather app. This app is special because it provides real-time forecasting. Let's say it's raining outside and I want to find a 5 to 10 minute window where I can walk from building to building. Dark Sky will literally tell me to the minute when it will stop raining so I can walk outside. It's really useful for anyone on a college campus that walks around a lot. Adobe Scan is my document scanning app. It's just a basic scanning app. Sonos is a sound system app that if you have multiple speakers, you can connect them all together and play music in different rooms. YouTube Studio is great for looking at analytics and answering comments because it puts all of those in one place. MailChimp is the app I use to run my email newsletter. You can sign up in the description if you're interested. Their app is really good at tracking campaign progress, who opened your email, who didn't, stuff like that. LastPass is my password manager. This is another thing that everyone should have. There's no reason to memorize all your passwords when you can have a system like LastPass automatically fill them in and store them securely. It's completely free and a no-brainer. Hue is the app I use to control all of my Philips Hue lights, so the main thing I use it for is in the morning at around 5 a.m. they will slowly come on, which simulates a sunrise. This helps me get up in the morning, and also these lights in the background, this blue one and this orange one, those are both Philips Hue lights, and that's how I have different colors. Calculator X is a really good graphing calculator app. There are some times where I need to use a graphing calculator, and Calculator X is great because I don't have to use a TI-84 anymore. Jedona Compiler is just a random code compiler that I have on my iPad, just in case I want to write any code on the go or test something out. Ally Mobile and Wells Fargo are the two apps I have for both my bank accounts. Now we fit the miscellaneous category. These are 3 apps that are all communication based. We start off with Telegram, which is a good replacement for WhatsApp if you're concerned about your privacy. Then we have Twitter. I think Twitter gets a bad reputation because of all the politics surrounding it, but you can choose who to follow. So for me, because I only follow people who talk about productivity, technology, and entrepreneurship, my feed is mostly centered around those topics. It's actually really insightful, and I learn a lot from it every day. As far as social media apps can be productive, I would say that Twitter is by far the best one. Finally, we have Slack, which is a team communication app that I use to communicate with and message a few of the communities that I'm part of. There are a few of these online communities surrounding podcasts and forums where people discuss general topics and run ideas by each other. That's what I mainly use Slack for. If you're interested in learning more about how I use my Apple products, you can watch these 2 videos on why I use a MacBook Pro for computer science and my review of the iPhone 12 Pro Max as a computer science student. Thank you for watching. A like would be incredible, and I will see you in the next video.